Hey everyone, this is Mecha. Welcome to a Fire Emblem 7 Hector Hard Mode and Lin Hard Mode intended ranks run. This is the prologue, and we're gonna get started in a minute. This is not me playing, I am just commentating, but who is playing is Altissimo, who is here with me, and who executed the entire run. How are you doing today, Altissimo?
Good. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Pretty excited for this project. It's been a long time since I looked at FE7, let alone FE7 ranked. I've had some grueling memories of trying to S-rank this game myself and ending up giving up midway through because it can be such a chore. But at least we're going to start with Lim mode, which is very light on strategic decisions. And apparently it was for you too, because someone else was nice enough to route out the entire Lim mode for you, right?
Yeah, that's correct. A Nordiquester, I'm not exactly sure how that's pronounced, made a guide for S-ranking Lin mode and getting the white gem and using 2 of the stat boosters and getting Nils to level 7, and posted it on Serena's Forest several years ago. So that's the strategy that I'm using all throughout Lin mode here.
Yeah, so the entire RNG that's happening in Lin mode is just set, and the same is going to go for Hector Hard mode as well. So, for example, Lin facing a chance of death here in Prologue is inevitable when facing this route, but really she's facing no chance of death because we know in advance what the RNG is. If you and I both started the game with Heavy 7 at the same time, or even at different times, and we both did the exact same move, all the right button inputs and everything, we'd get the exact same results. And so Lin will actually never die here, but it looks a little bit scary, like up against Bada the Beast. And that's kind of what Lin mode is just going to be like. It's going to be mostly training a small group of units, which is a little bit different from what you usually see in ranked runs, because in case you don't know, a ranked run means you're trying to get an S rank in all the 5 ranks that the game has: tactics, survival, experience, funds, and combat. And each of those ranks kind of contradict each other. For example, tactics measures how many turns you're taking to beat a chapter, whereas experience measures how many experience points you get. So if you only use 1 unit to kill everything, you're probably going to go by pretty fast, because that unit's going to get really strong, but your experience rank will suffer, and in that way there's a lot more contradictions within experience. How did you balance that, or how do you think Fionorda balanced that for Lin mode?
Part of it is that there are parts in the run where some of the units get experience, like decent amount of experience, without like leveling up or leveling up too much. Like I know Dorcas gets a couple of kills like later in the mode, which result in him getting reasonable amounts of EXP, even though he's not actually like being really trained or anything like that. Overall, the Lin mode ranking requirements are actually pretty lenient, all things considered. So even though this run mostly just trains Lin, Sane, and Florina, and Nils, that's still, and Matthew, I guess, but that's still just, there seems to be enough EXP to go around, even with just those few units getting levels. And Kent gets a couple levels too. So it's like, we're not evenly balancing how much training we're giving to every single unit, but it seems like there's enough EXP to accommodate having a small group of units do all the killing here.
Yeah, although I think this is a good place to mention that you also just inflicted some additional suffering to yourself by making yourself train every single unpromoted unit at level 20, right?
Yep, that's correct. I don't need to do that, but as it turns out, I'm pretty close to failing the requirement if I don't do that, so it makes sense for the run. But particularly, I just thought it'd be really funny to set that as from another, poor units, Bartray, Dorcas, and Oswin. I'm not that Oswin's a poor unit, but that he can't move fast or anything like that. And I thought it would be interesting to try to have to balance that alongside training actually good units and beating chapters in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, fair enough. There were a couple times that in that chapter 1 clear just now that Kent was saying used lances instead of swords against enemies. I think you told me that one of the reasons they do that is because lances are slightly cheaper than swords on a per use basis, so your funds ranking, which is apparently slightly tight for Lin mode, is preserved a little bit, and also it helps with the RNG route that sometimes Kent or Sane gets hit rather than dodge a hit. That changes the amount of random numbers that are burnt, because if you get hit, the game has to check if you also get a crit, and that changes the sequence a little bit. It's very awkward to see sometimes, like Sane is using a lance for no reason when Lin already told him how the weapon triangle works. But hey, if it works, right?
Yeah, exactly. This run that Nordiquester developed actually, so I'm not exactly sure which value is higher, but basically we want to get both the white gem, and we want to S rank Lin mode. And so in doing both of those, you have to have your funds above a certain threshold, and I don't remember which one's higher, but whichever one it is, this route gets exactly 1 gold more than is needed to hit that value. So if I used a single sword instead of a lance at any point during this playthrough, I would fail.
Yeah, just to make sure everyone understands, the funds rank is not just the amount of money you have, but it also totals the amount of the worth of the items you have. So if you, for example, buy a weapon at an armory, you would have the same amount of total funds because the gold just gets converted into weapon uses. But if you use up a weapon, that depletes your funds total. And so with the lance being slightly less expensive than the sword, using a lance is slightly cheaper.
Right. Originally, this whole ranked run thing, I got into ranked runs because of reading a playthrough by a player named Melf on Something Awful, and when he did Lin mode, he didn't S-rank it, but he did manage to find a way to get the white gem while using one of the stat boosters and a promotional item, which was really difficult, because normally you can just use 2 stat boosters, but the promotional item costs a lot more. So to get that, you have to even be more careful on your funds, and he did it by just using lances exclusively for everything.
Yeah. This chapter, we're recruiting Will and Florina. I am amazed at your restraint for not just pumping all the levels you can into Will, because he's arguably the worst unit in this game, at least the one that you get early on. But instead, most of the XP goes to Florina, actually, because she's quite potent as a flyer. How important is it to train a flyer for a ranked run?
With this kind of run with the intended ranks, it's actually not as important as it might be if it were a normal ranked run, and we may need to get into that here in a bit.
Yeah.
But basically, I have a lot more leeway on turns, so I don't need the rescue drop utility that flyers provide quite as much. But it is still useful, of course. Having a flyer is never a bad thing. And having Florina show up and be able to do combat is really cool. Just having her be able to fly all over the map and just attack enemies and not have to care about what's happening. We're going to get into some really cool strategies on Living Legend as a result of having some like extra pumped flyers. So
yeah,
it's useful.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get into intended ranks, because that's like one of the key words of this run, and I haven't really introduced it yet, I really want to quickly note that Lin got the Manikati from the tutorial map last chapter, and that weapon is free in the sense that if you use it up, you're not depleting your funds rack, you can't sell the weapon. There's a couple weapons like that in FE7, but I think this is the most prominent one and the most important one. And not only is it free, it also is just a really good weapon that allows Lin to one-round KO even with like 1 strength proc. So it's really nice to have.
Right, and that's another thing. If she used an iron sword at any point, then that would obviously be depleting our funds rank. So using up the Manikati until it breaks is part of this route as well.
Yes. So we're gonna buy some weapons. Like I said earlier, this doesn't deplete the funds rank. We still have to be careful with how much we use, but we're just buying a couple. We're buying an iron sword and iron lance here. We're gonna buy some javelins in I think 2 maps from now as well. For some flexibility. So I guess we should probably get into intended ranks. What you're seeing in the game in vanilla is not intended ranks. That's what we call, I guess, vanilla ranks from here on out, where the game tells you if you S-ranked or not. Generally, there's like you can tell what your rank is on a chapter by chapter basis. Like you have a fortune teller, either Nils or Hana, telling you like, hey, your tactics rank right now is 4, survival is 5, stuff like that, and the original version of Hector Hard Mode is weird in a lot of ways. It's bugged. A lot of the requirements for chapters, specifically the Hector Mode exclusive chapters, are 0s. But it turns out that somewhere in the internal game data, there is also intended rankings. At least we think those are the intended rankings, because they have correct-ish numbers for Hector Mode. And those do have turn counters, but it turns out that they also have XP values, which changes things quite a bit. I think on the whole, it's fair to say that intended ranks is much harder, right?
That's fair. As for how they came to be intended ranks versus the vanilla ranks, looking at the data in FE Builder, what I think happened is that there were values set for every chapter, and they were different between Eliwood and Hector Mode. But I think something in the game is coded to look at the Eliwood values no matter which mode you're playing. So that's why that happens, is because it's trying to use the Eliwood mode values for maps that don't exist in Eliwood mode. Whether or not this was intentional, I don't know. It could be the case that the designers felt that the Hector Mode ranks were too difficult and decided to just change it so it points to Eliwood Mode instead. Or maybe it was a bug, like most people think it is. I think it's more likely to be a bug, personally, but I have no way of knowing. And yes, I think those ranks are it's a different puzzle between the vanilla ranks and the intended ranks, because the vanilla ranks, since some of your Hector Mode chapters have 0 turn requirements, that makes your overall tactics rank a lot tighter. You have to actually attempt some LTC strats or something close to it sometimes in order to actually get enough done in the turn limit. Whereas in the intended, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the record, this is because the Hector Mode turn requirements for the Hector chapters are literally 0, so you have to make up those turns in other chapters. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because you can't beat a chapter in 0 turns. And one of the chapters, chapter 15, you can only beat it in 8 turns because of it being a defend map. So I think the intended ranks, they make it, they give you a lot of leeway on the turns, so you can take longer on maps, but the problem is you need to get so much more experience that I think that is what makes it more difficult. It's like it's balance of what do you think is more difficult as a player? Do you think turns are more difficult to hit, or do you think experience is more difficult to hit? And seeing as how there are a lot of people who say that, including Mecha here, who say that experience is like the most difficult rank on the vanilla ranks, then I think making experience harder is definitely making it a lot harder overall, even if the turns are easier to get to.
Yeah, does it make a difference for the funds ranking?
There is difference. At the end of the day, I used no stat boosters. I promoted 5 units, and I could have promoted a 6th, and that's it. I couldn't have used any stat boosters. I couldn't have promoted anyone else or anything like that.
Yeah, fair enough. And you also end up using the Lin Mode, Energy Ring, and Angelic Robe, but you didn't use the Night Crest. Am I right?
Right. I don't think you can use all 3 while still getting an S rank. I think, or getting the White Gem in an S rank. I think that's too much fun down the drain.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've talked about tactics, we've talked about experience, we've talked about funds. I think the other 2 ranks are fairly simple both ways of ranked. You've got a survival, which is basically if you have everyone survive, you get an S rank. You don't even have to recruit everyone. I think the game just checks, hey, did anyone die? No, alright, here's your 5 stars, congratulations. And then for combat in FE7 is quite interesting in how funny it is. It's 40% of your combats have to end in a victory, and then you get an S rank. That's basically what it is. And if you do worse than that, you get a lower rank. And 40%, it might sound a little bit tough, but it's super lenient when you consider that a lot of FE7 enemies can be 1-rounded. And even if you were to 2-round everything like Florina's doing to these mercenaries, you would still get an S rank. But if you think about all the times you killed an enemy with a hand axe or a javelin in Marcus, that's going to be a 100% whenever he does that, so it's going to up your average. This does mean, though, that we can't really milk the chapters for all the XP they're worth. Theoretically, you get the most experience with, like, Rebecca poking a single brigand, like, 8 times for him to die, but that would obviously hurt the other ranks in some other ways, but especially combat would go down with that. So we can't boss abuse, for example, if we have the combat rank. But I do believe there are some instances in Lim mode near the end where that combat rank is actually challenged. You actually end up fairly close to 40% when the Lim mode is over, right?
Yeah, I didn't do the exact calculations on how much of this, like what the final combat percentage is for this, but yes, there is going to be coming up a part in Lin mode where we just have one of our units just sit and tank enemy attacks for like 20 turns or something like that. And it really just goes to show how easy FE7 enemies are to beat, that this doesn't actually get us below the 40% threshold. That all the rest of the enemies in the game can be like 1-rounded or 2-rounded. This is a lot harder in FE6, for instance. FE6 ranked also has a combat rank, but that one is actually a lot harder to meet because FE6 enemies do not go down nearly as easily. And especially if you're trying to train low-level units, you're not going to be able to get that 2-round thing going on that FE7 is that you're seeing here.
Yeah. Do you remember if it's also 40% FE6?
I think it is, but I haven't touched that in a while, so I can't 100% remember.
Because that's what I think as well. Anyway, this chapter is mostly wrapped up. It's, as you can see, it's mostly just the Cavs and Florina doing work. Is there like a particular reason why you're not using anyone else here?
This was part of the route that I was following, but part of the idea behind the route was to get Sane, Florina, and Lynn up to acceptable levels so that they can be a lot better during the main story. But it wasn't really trying to prioritize anyone else's ability to do anything, because the other units are generally easier to train. This didn't really take into account using will long term, for instance, so I don't really blame them for not paying attention to that. Because even in ranked runs where I'm not doing intended, Rebecca and Will just get benched immediately. I can never find time to use them in other runs. And most players can't.
There is that little tidbit about defense chapters about FE7 I just remembered where I think you have to kill the boss or else it will count an extra turn. Is that present here?
That's actually, I remember you saying that at some point before, but that's not actually true.
Okay.
Even if you kill the boss, it still takes the extra turn. The only thing that's different is if you have the maps where killing the boss ends the chapter early, like the boat map. That will lower your turn count, but just regular defend maps, killing the boss doesn't make a difference.
Okay, I mean, you do it anyway for EXP, but it's good to clear up that misconception for sure. Anyway, chapter 5, we get Sarah and we get Urk. I guess the most important thing, when I look at these units anyway, the most important thing I'm thinking is, okay, Sarah just gives me free XP whenever I have her heal someone, so I should try to heal someone with her every turn, right?
That's generally fair. Not so much in Lin mode, because first off, the heal staff is expensive, so using it up is going to make that funds rank harder to hit. But second off, we're going to have so many opportunities to heal with her during Hector mode, it's not really important to get experience on her yet. That'll actually just lower our overall experience that we can get in Hector mode. She does heal a few times here, but not every turn.
That's interesting, because I think most people's experience with healers in FE7 is that they just grow way too damn slow, so it takes forever to level them up. Like, they only get 11 for a heal and 12 for a mend, and you don't have anything else for a really long time. And even when you do get, like, Torch and Barrier, they're also expensive and limited. So is that not a problem, then, for raising Sarah?
It doesn't end up being one. It could be if if the player is using a lot of the expensive staffs. And I do buy several physics at the secret shop in Dragon's Gate, so that actually gives access to a high value, high experience staff that any healer can basically use by that point, because weapon ranks are going to be up that high. So by the time you get physic, you've got an option to do a lot more heal EXP or staff EXP every turn. And then it doesn't end up mattering. I guess, if you had used fewer staff uses, then you might have been able to promote an extra unit or something like that. But I managed to hit the balance that I wanted to without really having to try for it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of expensive weapon uses, we're buying 2 javelins. We already talked about how buying it themselves doesn't hurt the funds rank, but if it's so tight, is it important to have one to range? Like, is it so important to, use those?
In this case, in this Lin mode, it is, just in order to make sure that enemies go for the appropriate target. It's mainly just used as like a targeting mechanism, and Sane is going to use some javelins as well in order to attack some mages, or rather to counter some magic users in 7X. So it's not used. The javelins aren't used a whole lot here, but they are used enough to make buying them worthwhile.
All right. We've moved on to chapter 6, and if you blink, you'll miss it, because I remember when I was watching this, it went by so fast. I think the most funny thing about this map is that Wrath joins in it, and he's level 7 at base, so I found that for ranked runs, I wasn't really tempted to use him a whole lot, because he seems to gain almost no XP. But he does gain, I think it's 13 XP from the cutscene. That doesn't count towards XP, if I remember correctly.
I actually don't know on that one. I didn't do any research into it.
Oh, well, I think I saw it in Theo Nord's notes then, in which case, if that's where I read it, then it must be correct. I think
Fair enough.
There's one other instance, I think, where a character gains experience from cutscene. I think it's chapter 8 with the Ballista and Lin.
Yes.
But this is one where Wrath, I think Lin is threatened by a mercenary enemy in the story, and then Wrath comes out of the building and shoots him and gets XP from it for totally free. But you're getting scammed because he's actually not getting any experience from it. I think it's actually important, maybe, unless you had something to say about what I just said, in which case, please go ahead.
No, I didn't.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, maybe we should talk about the additional challenges that you're taking on this playthrough, in addition to intended ranks, which is already a hell of an accomplishment. So, because I think I remember you saying you wanted to get every single item in the game?
More or less, I wanted to try that, except for some of the ones that have to be stolen. I get every item that's in a chest or dropped by an enemy, as well as a couple of the high value items that enemies are holding onto. I don't go for every single vulnerary or anything like that, but I do get most of the items. That's just, I don't know why, just a completionist thing. There isn't really any any good reason for that. And actually, I do mess it up at one point. There's a chapter later where Floriana lands on a chest but fails to open it.
What?
But yeah, I forgot. And I just moved her away from the chest.
You know, that probably, I think I've done that once or twice where I would canto on the chest, like with the intention, like, okay, I'm gonna get that next turn, and then I see an enemy in the range, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna attack that enemy. Oh, but why is this chest unopened? Hold up.
Yep, that's basically what happened. I did realize later that I had enough chest keys to pull it off. I would have just needed to like have Merlinus be next to Carla at some point in a later chapter in order to make up the difference. So I basically got it. I just didn't actually get it.
Yeah.
Copium.
Yeah. I looking at Florian's level up, I'm reminded that this is an RNG routed run. Do you know like how rigged, like how above average people like Sane and Florian end up being? Is it really drastic?
Florina has, I think, 11 strength before an energy ring in the upcoming chapters, so she gets a ton of strength levels. Sane has above average strength and speed, but actually I think he's like below average on skill and some other stats, just because the route was so hell-bent on getting him high strength and speed that the other stats just didn't matter. But I know that basically the idea was to create a monster Sane and to get Florina up to like a usable combat level, because this route may have been developed in response to the Melth Something Awful run that I mentioned before. I don't remember. But in Melth's run, he specifically made Sane into a monster unit and gave Florina some levels. So I think if this route was made afterward, it was kind of with the intention of setting it up the same way.
Yeah, fair enough. We get into chapter 7, and this is a chapter that you can skip if you want to by rescue dropping a unit over to the bottom side. Where the boss is, and just ending the chapter. But there is also some treasure on the right side of the map. I think there's a village to visit and maybe a stealable item or one or two. I don't remember what approach the run goes with though.
I don't think there's a stealable item, but there is the village.
Yeah.
And let's see, I'm blanking a little bit on the strategy here, but I'm pretty sure we drop a unit over and also use Nils to get over to the village very quickly. Because part of this, and we'll get into it when chapter 10 comes up, is that in order to get all of the chapters in Hector Hard Mode, which I intend to do, you need to raise Nils to level 7 during Lin Mode. Which is not easy when you're also trying to S-rank it, since that means Nils has to do 60, or gain 6 levels, so it's like 60 turns of dancing.
Which is disgusting, by the way, and horrible, and should be against all kinds of Geneva conventions, but you're doing it anyway. Fionorda is doing it anyway, because we have to. Yeah, we're going to every chapter in this playthrough. I don't know why. I think that's like a question I would ask for like almost every single extra thing you put yourself through, is just why, but I guess the answer is just because you can.
To flex, honestly. Yeah, that's like, it's like the same reason I go to the Jerme map, not because it's better for this, just because I want to flex.
Jerme. Like, just for transparency, I have watched about half of Lin Mode. Roughly from this point onwards is by me seeing it for the first time. 7, 7X, and 8 and 9, I have not watched a single part of it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the weird things you're doing. But right now it looks like a mostly standard thing, like a healthy balance between killing as many enemies as you can, getting the actual village, but also having, I believe it's Sane, drop down near where the boss is to finish him whenever you're done doing all that.
Basically, yeah. We're just using Florina and Sane to mop up most of the enemies here, while getting the guys up at the top, close to the village, so that they can get it quickly, and therefore finish the chapter quickly.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, I guess there's the guiding requirement for the chapter, because we're also going to every guiding, but the guiding requirement for this one is literally like finish the chapter within 15 turns or something generous like that, which I guess is meant to accommodate new players still in mode, that they can beat it even if they're just going all the way around the mountain with just their foot units, so no Florina risk chopping happening or anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to meet. I don't think I've ever had a problem with that.
No, I guess we can talk about Lucius not doing anything whatsoever in the corner there. I'm curious, because like, I don't think Urk did a whole lot either. He's not even deployed here. So is that also because we're concerned? I guess it's also because Fionorda wasn't really concerned about it. But I guess it also leaves those units like free of XP, so that they can get a lot of experience in Hector Mode, and maybe you make it easier to go to Kenneth if you wanted to, I guess. I mean, you don't, but...
Right. I think that was kind of the point, was that it's like we're supposed to be getting, Monster Sane, Monster Florina, and decent experience on Lin, but like, as for everyone else, we're leaving them open to be able to train in Hector Hard Mode where you need the experience, so that if we get Sarah to level 5 or whatever, that's less experience, or if we get Lucius up a few levels, that's less experience that he can gain. And units like Lucius and Urk are super, super easy to use at low levels in Lin Mode. Whereas someone like Florina, I think, would have a little bit more of a difficult time picking up enough kills to get a lot of your experience, especially when you're balancing that with the tactics ranking.
Yeah, I would say from my experience, they can all 2-round most enemies, maybe 1-round the weaker ones, like especially in the case of Herc. Soldiers just die in 1 round to almost everything. But I guess Florina's taking counters, hitting on enemy defense, which can sometimes be non-zero. So it's a little tougher. But now we're embarking on our first side quest. We're going to chapter 7X, and I think this is where you said some actual interesting decisions are made to maximize the funds rank, right? With Matthew and Nils.
Yeah. So I've mentioned before, you know, the tactics or the funds rank is so difficult to meet that we're only 1 gold above whatever it is we need. And part of that is we actually need to get all of the vulneraries that are on enemy units in this chapter. And there's several different ways you can do that. The fact that you have so many mounting units means there's a lot of cool rescue dropping things you can do in this chapter. But we're also having to balance that with the tactics ranking in this case. So what ends up happening is what I think is actually a really cool strategy. It's different from the way I normally play this map, that's for sure. Because I usually have Matthew go in a completely different direction. But in this, we're going to have, you know, with Nils, with mounting units, with Matthew, we're just going to have people just going all over the map in like just a single turn in order to be in the right place to start the next turn. I didn't need to do battle preps on screen, but I did for some reason.
Yeah, do you always do battle preps on screen? I forgot.
No.
Okay. All right. In that case.
Usually I just start the chapter by showing what items each unit has and where they are on the map, but that's after I've already planned them and put them in the right place.
Yeah. Whenever I'm recording videos, I think for example, my FE8 run, the FE8, what is it called? Like the God something, the name is the 100% growth run. I remember like doing preps for that on screen. I remember, I need to actually like adjust this one item, then I have to record a whole new video just to show that on screen, just for transparency. It bugged the hell out of me. It was annoying.
That's fair. So yeah, we're starting with Florina going to clear out the west side. She's going to get attacked by the archer, but that's okay because we have 2x effectiveness in this game.
Yeah, have we used a rope yet on her?
I don't recall if we did. I think we must have. But I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me before recording that at some point Florina needs the +7 HP to survive something, and it might have been an archer hit. It seems likely that it'd be an archer. It's always those archers with Florina, but 2 times effectiveness makes it very easy. There is a lot of units going left, but then again, the right side is not particularly demanding. My favorite enemy in the whole game is that soldier north of the starting point. That's this like you can one-round him with Urk or Lucius for completely free. You just can't do anything about it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think Urk might be the one who gets him in a minute here.
Well, you let him go to the wall. You give him a chance to run away with his life down the stairs, but he's like, no, I'm breaking this wall instead.
Yeah, he could just go down the stairs. Okay, so now Florina would have survived that without the angelic rope, which I'm not sure that she has yet. I think it's chapter 10 when that comes into play for her.
Right, so I remember trying to puzzle with this, like breaking the wall, getting the chest with Matthew, getting the lockpick from the enemy thief, and this vulnerary I've never stolen in my life, so I don't know how the hell your action economy is going to get through this.
So yeah, Sane can run around the wall, which means you only need to devote 1 unit to it, which might not happen if you don't have a unit that's sufficiently high strength. It's happened to me before that I've had to use 2 or Nils, and it's so annoying. So we start by stealing the vulnerary, Dance for Matthew, so that he can do something else, and then he just runs away from all treasure. Raph moves up to block where that cavalier's going. So it's like, this is what I mean about like going all over the map in order to make it fast. It's really weird because like you'd think Matthew would have gone for that chest or would have gone north to intercept the thief or something, but no, he's stolen that vulnerary and now he's about to steal a vulnerary from the cav on the right before going back left.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he does have the time to do that because that thief needs to, like, he's compelled to go for the chest as long as he sees a path to it, and then once he's gotten it, then you can kill the thief, steals lockpick, probably in reverse order.
Yeah. So now we're doing this, and then because Wrath is where he is, he's perfectly poised to rescue drop Matthew as well.
Oh, that's nice, but I'm surprised to see you dance Florina instead of Matthew. I was expecting Matthew to get dropped and then start stealing something, but I guess you're waiting for the thief to get the chest first?
No, actually, the thief isn't going to get the chest, but he is going to run into the room. So he's going to get closer to us, and somehow that's superior. I'm not exactly...
That is weird.
Yeah, so we're blocking the chest, but I think he is going to come into the room anyway.
I would have thought that because he sees no treasure available, he would just run away. That's how the AI usually functions, I want to say, but sometimes they'll attack you if they can. I don't know. This guy, it sounds like he's just going to sit there and do nothing. The way you're
I don't remember
describing
if he does that or if he runs in the room. We're about to find out. And yeah, Urk and Dorcas killed the Cavalier, so they're one little contribution, and Urk is going to be able to take out a couple of these enemies.
Hey, now I know for a fact that Dorcas fights like 2 more enemies in this whole
He
run.
Yeah, he does. So that was a wrong statement.
Blink and you'll miss
But,
it.
All right, look at that, Urk fans. That's it. Okay, yeah, the thief just runs in, which makes it easier to both get the chest and steal from him, and have Matthew like in a place to pick up the next thing he needs to get. So it's like so far he's only done one thing per turn, but we're still like at a pretty good turns pace.
Yeah. I don't know if it would be possible to do this chapter faster. I want to say because multiple people have put multiple like hours of work into it. Probably not. I'm surprised the thief just walks in and does nothing. That seems so against their AI, because I remember a lot of thieves will like try to steal instead if they can't do anything, or like try to attack or run away. It's so weird that he just does nothing.
Yeah, maybe it's like a specific quirk of Lin mode to where he's supposed to do that so that you don't like have a chance to miss him. Or something, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's got to be
So
that,
it's-
or just like individual enemy AI can be different from unit to unit. Not all thieves. Hashtag.
So this is some weird movement that I'm doing here, and this is just because I forgot where I needed to put Wrath and was having to remember. But yeah, we've stolen the lockpick from the thief, and we've picked out the hammer from the chest, and now Matthew needs to go and steal a vulnerary from one of the Myrmidons, or mercenaries, over to the right. So he's not even really in range to do that, but with Nils' help, he will be next turn. So it's basically taken, I think, Matthew like 4 turns, to 5 from the start, in order to steal everything here, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Is that the last stealable? From the mercenaries? The boss also got one. I don't remember.
No, the last one is the one from the Merc.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure. That is really cool, though. And
Yeah, and I usually never go that way. I usually just like go up and around or something like that, or go right first and then left. I don't know, but usually not like going back and forth the way they're doing in this run. And I usually don't get Nils that far north either.
Yeah, I take it this is the same with the javelin doing work.
Yep. This is where we just kill those magic units.
Yeah, I guess they would have to be out of the way before you can get to the boss. Well, you probably have enough actions to get to them either way, but looks pretty clean. I wanted to say I don't.
Makes it easier.
Yeah, I don't blame you for like taking a couple seconds to make sure that Wrath is going the right way, because I think if you burn even one extra random number through the little arrow wiggling, like you just have to redo the whole chapter.
Yep, I'm very familiar with this route because I've done it on my own for like other ranked runs multiple times now. But for recording it, I just wanted to make sure I could get it without using save states or without having to reload all the time, because time is precious and I'm not using speed up. So it's easier just to make sure that I'm getting everything correct on the first try.
Yeah, and I guess it's might also be a good time to point out, like, this run in general is not going to be heavy on RN burning to like rig good levels or combat. The run is routed in such a way that the RNG works out the same every time, but I think other than like a few exceptions such as Kishuna, there is never a moment where you're like, oh, now this unit needs to get a 3% crit to get a kill they otherwise never would get, right?
Correct. If there were places where like a crit would help me, and there was an RN like available to me that would do it, like for instance, there's one point where I was just gonna have low and attack an enemy, and so I did that, and then he crit, and then I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'm keeping that crit in there because that's useful for my long-term progress.
We take those.
Yeah, we take those. There's a few places where I accidentally burned an RN while routing, and so I just had to burn it in order to make sure my plan would line up properly. But that's not like intentional. It's just to make sure that I don't have to reroute again. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I do actions in specific orders in order to ensure certain units get the outcome I want them to have, but that's not the same thing as RN burning, like as we typically think of it.
Yeah, and the game is also not edited in any way to like increase growth or anything. It's just what you get during the route is what you get. That's what you see.
Yeah, I got asked why I didn't want to do fixed mode, for instance.
Yeah.
And that was just because I don't know, I wanted to flex.
I do think a fixed mode. There's not a whole lot of fixed mode runs on YouTube in Think Fire Emblem in general. I think that's like that would be an interesting different challenge, fixed mode ranked, because then you'd really have to deal with what units always look like. This is still like a super big accomplishment. It's really cool. But it also like it makes me curious, would it be possible to do this without a superpowered Saint, for instance?
Right. And that is a good question. And it is definitely something that might be worth looking into at some point. I've thought about coming back and doing like a fixed mode run of this. Just I liked ranked. I like ranked. that's all I can really say about it.
Yeah, I think I get why you like it, because I've tried it a couple times and it has some satisfaction to it. But also, it feels really miserable around the mid game for me usually, because that's when the game is like, well, hey, you are failing XP. Do you want to continue like 10 more chapters of this? If you know what I mean. So I kind of wanted to ask, why do you like ranked?
To me, it's kind of like an interesting management puzzle that I don't really get from just playing Fire Emblem Vanilla, if that makes sense. It's like, I know that, Marcus is the best unit and everything, but it's like sometimes you just want to find an excuse to have to manage other units. Well, when I say sometimes you want to find an excuse, no, that's just me. That's just me.
You're not alone,
I like
trust
the
me.
challenge. No, I mean, there's a reason growth units are so popular. There's a reason units like Nino are as popular as they are. Nino and Lin. And it's because people just genuinely like sometimes the challenge of training them and watching what kind of nuke you get as a result. Well, maybe not in Lin's case. But Nino's got pretty good growth, so sometimes at the end of the day you can be like really rewarded for your patience, and it's not like she's going to be better than Pent necessarily, for instance, or anyone is going to be better than Marcus, but it's like, well, this unit can contribute now that I've trained them, and it's just kind of fun to look at, and it's like, yay, I trained Nino to a good level, and now she's doing good. Just feels good.
And now you get rewarded by the game for it. It tells you did a good job for doing it because you got a bunch of levels for it, which, I mean, as if the dopamine itself wasn't enough of a reward.
Yeah, you get double dopamine in ranked.
Exactly. Quick intermission from ranked discussion. There's a ballista on this map. For some reason it targets Nils over Florina. I don't think either of us know exactly why it is. My theory is that it sees Nils goes to low HP and it's like, dopamine rush, let's do it. Send it. I don't know what the other reason is. In the cutscene, it targets Lin and gives her exactly 1 experience as well, which is the other instance of what I pointed out earlier. I think if you reset the chapter over and over, you can level Lin to 20 that way. And I think she gets the same level up every time. So you probably end up with a weirdly skewed Lin in some ways. I'm hoping she gets at least speed or strength out of it. But that is something you can do.
Yeah. I don't know why the Ballista's not going for Florina here. This is, however, something that makes me wonder if this particular mode would be possible on the Japanese version of the game, where Ballistas would do 3 times damage to Florina. I've just thought about that some to know if like this particular path would be, or this route would be usable. I don't think it would, because Lin using the Manikati on some calves like 2-rounds them, which she probably would 1-round them with 3 times effectiveness. But it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Just quick reminder, the enemies at the bottom of this map all have reefer weapons, so the weapon triangle advantage doesn't quite work out the way you think it would, so that's why Lin is comfortable being away from a Brigand instead of being right next to him, because she'd rather fight, what's it called, an Axe Reaver on the soldier.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of strategic commentary we're seeing on the Lin mode chapters. I can't make it any better than it is. All these enemies are like level 1, right?
I don't even know, but the point is none of them are good. None of them are... I mean, if Florina can 2-round a Merc that does like no damage to her in return, there's just not a lot going on there.
You know what kind of party you got, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, is that the Dorcas combat sighting I'm seeing? Hold up.
It's Dorcas doubling too, yeah.
My favorite part of Limb mode, where Dorcas pretends he has actual speed stat. I mean, it's 6. There's like 3 different enemy speeds he doubles. 0, 1, and 2.
It's definitely more impressive than Bartray, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's kind of.
And the fact that you have to train Bartray for full recruitment is definitely fun.
Wait. Yeah, did we tackle all the additional challenges you're doing? I think we kind of hinted that you're recruiting all the
started on it and then got distracted.
But you got distracted by good gameplay. We can't help it. It's just what it is.
Yeah, it's Fire Emblem.
I think, let me just go through, right? So we explained ranking, what it is, kind of, intended rankings. We're going through Limb mode and then Hector mode, Hector Heart mode, of course. We're visiting all the chapters, including all the Guidance chapters, including 19XX or 19X Part 2, the Kishuna Unlocked chapter. Recruiting all the characters, Farna and Carla included. You're playing the Linus and Jerme version of their respective route splits, which I'm sure we'll get into during the main course, because this is going to be a series, in case you weren't aware. Every unpromoted unit gets to level 20, unpromoted, right? Not promoted, but just unpromoted. Never drop an item, get all the villages, get as many stealable items as is feasible, and little to no RM burns, and in case it wasn't hard enough, you also decide, I'm not going to the arena. But again, this is probably something we should tackle when we actually have an arena on the screen.
That's fair. I also posted, like, I know where you're getting that list from. It's from the Discord channel I had about it. Later on, I also posted that one of my goals was to get all of the Pent and Louise conversations.
Oh, thanks.
Which is really, really extra. But I felt like it.
Yeah, I think that's not even the only support conversations you're getting in the whole game. If I'm
no, there's a couple others, but none that actually, like, I tried to get. They're just stuff that happens as a result of keeping units near each other.
I mean, it's a big difference from, for example, like a commentated LTC, like I've sometimes done, where there is room to build up that kind of stuff. But there's no support building in Limb mode, unfortunately. So, for example, Florian and Lynn are not getting supports by chilling near each other. Talk to me about Wallace and why he can ruin the playthrough if you do it wrong.
So, every cutscene in the game burns RNs in order to figure out the pathing that the NPC characters take to get to their spot. And so if you watch or don't watch that cutscene, that can affect the RNs. And Theo Nordequester had realized on this chapter that there was something funky about it. He didn't know exactly what it was at the time, but that skipping a cutscene or not skipping a specific cutscene, one of them was going to screw up the RNs. And he's like, you can tell if you did it wrong if you get this level up instead of that level up. And so because I'm the person who probably spent the most time with that route after him, I realized what it was that was exactly screwing up the RNG, and it's when Wallace appears, you need to watch him come and meet your army, instead of skipping through it with start. Because if you skip through it, then the RNs are going to be different. But I think it's the only cutscene in Lin mode that we actually watch fully, so it's the only case where there's a note in the guide that's make sure you watch this scene or whatever. Actually, there might be a couple others, but this is one that I figured out where the actual problem is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is also Wallace's only contribution to the playthrough, because I don't remember him doing anything in Chapter 10, and I don't think he comes back in Hector Mode with the routes that we're going.
No, because I'm not going on the chapter he's in.
He's just lost forever
he gets
somewhere.
he screws up the RN, he gets the village, and that's it.
Refuses to elaborate, leaves, never comes back.
I'm glad, actually, that I don't have to try to train him. Because he would have been an unpromoted level 12 knight, and I would have had to try to train him alongside Oswin, which is not they're generals. I mean, knights aren't necessarily bad if you're able to turtle for a while to train them, but I barely got Oswin to level 20 doing that, so it's I don't know where I would have found the time to field an extra unit.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to say for Wallace, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because he is a unit you can just kind of flop somewhere on a corner of the map where nothing else is happening and just gets 10 XP per turn per enemy. It seems reasonably easy to do. But if Oswin is barely scraping by, I guess that is kind of scary. But at the same time, isn't everyone barely scraping by? Because everyone you get to level 20 and then gets more kills is already hurting you in a way. You have to divide everything equally.
Basically, yeah. And so it's it's really more about not having a unit slot than it is knights specifically being hard to train. For instance, based on what I ended up doing, I could have, for instance, fielded him on Victory or Death, because I had some extra unit slots there, but I don't know about an unpromoted level 12 knight doing anything on Victory or Death very easily. So
you could probably find a spot. I guess you're also limited in what weapons you can use, so you can't necessarily just carry an Axe Reaver around to fight a bunch of brigands. I don't know. It's all theoretical at this point. I think,
theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's worth pointing out at this point that Lynn's Manikati is at 1 use right now. It's been used up almost completely, but it does come back whole in the main course, fortunately. And I hope you remember where everything is, because this map has Fog of War. It sure does have Fog of War. And I think this is mostly more of an LTC kind of map where there's not really any side objectives, so it has been just drop Lynn to the boss and get done with it, right?
Oh. Sorry, I think my internet cut out there for a second.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was saying this looks more like an LTC approach where you just ferry Lynn and then Nils to where the boss area is to get there. Maybe not as soon as possible, but maybe within 1 or 2 turns from an LTC playthrough.
Yeah, some of these Lin mode chapters have to be real quick in order to allow for Nils to dance 60 times, which he doesn't actually have to do, but I like to say that. So some of these chapters do have to be close to or actually using LTZ strats.
Yeah, I'm really curious how it's going to work out in Hector Mode, especially where the route isn't pre-cooked, because that is the main challenge of a ranked run, is trying to do as much as you can with every turn that the tactics rank give you. So you have to, like, you can't use the most expensive weapons or your fun rank will drain. You can't use the strongest units because they'll probably gain the least experience. Although if you find a unit that gains a lot of XP and kills a lot of people, that's like double good, double dopamine, and good for your ranks.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, Lucius shows up at a lot of chapters when he's really underleveled, just because, like, having magic power is so good against certain enemy types that, like, it doesn't matter if he's, like, level 3 or whatever, because he can just do enough damage for it.
Yep.
So there's stuff like that, and what else in that regard? Bartre trying to get to level 20 and then level 5 warrior before a certain time on what little enemies we have.
I didn't even realize he was going to level 20. Like, in my head is like, well, you trained to 10, and that was like a big pain for other playthroughs, like Don's 0% LTC. Like, sure, that's a 0% growth Bartre, but it's still only 9 levels or 8 levels. I think his base level's 2. So it's not,
I think so.
It's not terrible. Like, you can leave him out from like most of the maps in the game, and he joins in a couple of turn floored maps and the early maps where he's forced, and it's fine. You're training him to 20. Like, just for anyone who hasn't played hard mode in FE7, like, the XP gain is so trash. Once you get like over leveled by like 5 levels or something, like, you would fight an enemy, not kill them, and get like 80 XP, and then you kill them and you get another 80 XP. It's so annoying. It's so garbage.
Yeah, that's why I had to try to, like, except for a few units that I was making sure to, be promotion ready or things like that, except for a couple strong units, I wanted to get keep my units as low level as possible until it's time for them to get to level 20, in which case they only need to appear on a couple maps because they're getting so much EXP at that point due to fighting enemies much stronger than them that they're able to just get to level 20 within, like, 2 maps. Bartra's a good example of that. He shows up at, like, level 3 or something in Crazed Beast. It gets, like, 11 levels or something stupid like that. Lucius coming under level also does that from time to time. I know Matthew gets 8 levels on like that, where it's just, you just bring a low-leveled unit because they're good against the opposing enemy type. I just watch them eat the experience, even though they have no business being there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So this chapter, the strategy is divided into, I want to say, like, 2 or 3 teams, depending how you look at it. One team is Florina, flying over mountains, killing enemies. One team is Sane and Lin, sitting by a river doing nothing. And one team is the Nils Dance Parade, or the Nils, like, musical fest, I guess? Music performance.
The Nils Musical Fest. He's just sitting there, like, you know, playing his flute while people are throwing stuff at him, and it's great. It's a great image. But yeah, so instead of having Nils dance 60 times, we instead speed up the process a little bit by getting him attacked every turn.
This adds
Does that make sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, it adds a grand total of 4 experience per turn at the small cost of Nils being in danger every turn, technically speaking. But I'm sure he won't mind. He's okay with it. He told Lin.
First off, he takes, like, no damage from the mages, and second off, being on a forest actually makes it really difficult to hit him, and Sarah's there to heal him in case he ever gets on low health.
That's true. I think I saw the archers do, like, about half his health, which, again, is really speaks for what Lin mode enemies do. And it sounds like this takes a long time for Nils to do, but I know for a fact that Florina is, like, takes the entire time, or almost the entire time, to fly around, fight a bunch of people from the reinforcement forts, get the village, and then I think at some point she flies back and grabs Lin to seize. I think that's the rough plan.
Yeah, I think Sane kills the boss, Lin seizes, but Florina kills all of the enemies down here in the southern part first, while Nils is doing all the stance work. So it ends up, like, they both do things. We're not just sitting here refreshing Nils for, like, 16 turns straight. There's actually other stuff happening from time to time. Granted, Florina might stay in the same place for 6 turns, but she's still, like, fighting enemies who show up during those 6 turns or whatever.
It's still disgusting. I think there's one very exciting moment where Lin moves, like, 1 tile down over the river, enabled by. Yep. I think she only do that because the rain is gone. I don't remember for sure.
Yep. She has to wait till the rain stops, then she can move south, and so can Sane, and it's, like, the most exciting thing that happens in, like, 15 minutes here.
It is quite amazing. The video on YouTube, as it is right now, I know I'm going to cut this in half when we're done talking about stuff, but the video on YouTube is 24 minutes, and I highly recommend you check every single frame, because you do not want to miss this action. It's so peak gameplay. Like,
I even accidentally left the frame counter in the top left if you really want to check every
did?
frame.
That's so good. I'm so glad you did. I'm gonna leave out one frame, and if you know which it is, comment it below.
Oh god, it sounds awful. Yeah, this I've done this, and this is definitely the most boring part of this route to do because I've done this several times. But overall, if you're following the route, it takes like, I don't know, a little over an hour or something to beat Lin mode this way. I've been saying this on the Discord server for a long time now. I recommend everyone try this route at least once before you play Hector hard mode. You don't have to play ranked. You don't have to do any of that. You can use whoever you want on this last map if you like. I don't care. But having the busted Sane, busted Florian, and busted Lin is so fun in Hector hard mode that it's like, just try it once and see what kind of a difference it makes for your gameplay.
It almost makes up for having to deal with Kashuna in 19X just to go to his extra chapter. But on the plus side, you get to play 19X, which is a different chapter than you usually play, probably.
Yeah, like, who has gone there? No one.
Exactly. I think I've played that chapter once in my life.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure if it was a dream either.
Yeah. So it's just like, I don't really care if you want to rank this game or not. Just do the S rank guide once because it just ends up with such fun units.
Yeah, just make sure to follow the
You can
instructions
actually
very
use
carefully.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we've covered most of the points that we have to do to introduce this run properly. Unless there's anything that I forgot that you wanted to say.
There is just one small thing, and that's Florina gets both the Angelic Robe and Energy Ring in this. We're allowed to use those two stat boosters. Florina needs the Angelic Robe in order to actually complete this run. You can see she's getting like below 7 health on a few occasions here, so without the Angelic Robe she would have died. But the Energy Ring in this route is optional and can go on anyone. I chose to use Florina because I think having more strength on her is best, but you can literally put it on anyone. You could put it on Nils if you want to. And it's not really going to make a difference except how you choose to route Hector hard mode.
How dare you spoil my plans for my next playthrough. Right.
Stat boosters on Nils.
Look, he needs strength. This what you're doing right now requires mental strength, okay?
Got it.
And he doesn't have a mental
For him, it
stat.
might. He has to sit in the forest playing his flute while people attack him. I mean, that requires something. I don't know what.
Knowing Nils, the flute probably weighs him down. He needs the strength.
True.
Anyway, how about we skip to where you find the boss?
All right.
Okay, so I've heard that now is when we're killing Lundgren. The same. He's been ferried over all the way. When I heard that this chapter was taking like so long, I expected you to boss abuse on Lundgren, but I guess with combat rank you can't really get away with that.
I'm not sure how tight it is here. I don't know if...
I think Fiona's notes said 40% was like roughly how much, like what the percentage was at because of what Nils is doing.
Okay. Yeah, this route seems very like strictly designed to basically get the bare minimums possible where possible. Whether or not that's a good thing, who knows? But it does actually manage to balance all of these factors. So it's like the fact that you're able to S rank it while having to take time to train Nils is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, I am curious what Saint's parameters are against Lundgren, because I remember his defense is like pretty high for a Lin mode enemy. Figures he's the final boss of it. But Saint has also been getting, how much strength is he at? Like 19 at this point?
He's got a ton. I don't know if it's 19, but this is really high. Unfortunately, in this run, I kind of skip combat forecasts more often than I should, and I don't have like the mod that shows you them while the actual combat's going on or anything. So we'll see if Saint attacks too quickly for us to notice.
Well,
oh, he's just waiting.
We'll never know. Just wait in front of
We'll
him.
never know.
You sure do go out of your way to skip these combat forecasts. It probably tells me he's like 3-shotting him, which is the most reliable way to get rid of a boss on a throne like that. Don't give him healing in between.
Okay, so he gets missed.
Yeah,
he doubles.
that's a 4
Okay,
kill.
yeah. Yeah. Which might be a 2-round if he hits both of the next ones. Unless he... No, it wouldn't because he took 10 damage. Yeah, but he's not really in any sort of threat.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not like you get to improvise if there was a better chance, because you have to adhere to the exact RNG order.
Right. I had a different time when I screwed this up where I healed with Sarah too early, and it ended up screwing up everything, so I had to redo the chapter.
Sarah, what are you doing? I would have found it really funny if Lynn used like her last Manikata user to kill Lundgren, but I guess Sane really wants the experience because he's the highest level unit.
Yeah, he's not getting much experience from anything else at this point, so he has to do the promoted boss thing.
Capped strength,
so okay,
there you
he's
go.
capped strength at level like 13, I think it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he had like 13 speed as well, and Florian gets the energy ring. And I think
Yeah. So like if you want to do this run, you should follow this. And then like I said, you don't have to do ranks. So you can just give him the Knight's Crest now if you want, and have cracked promoted Sane and cracked Florina when you go into Hector hard mode. Like, it's fun.
yeah, I put Sane probably like an S or A tier on my tier list before, which I don't agree with anymore. But part of it was probably because I would do something like this, like have Sane
Right.
slightly RNG abused a little bit, and also like level 13 promoted from Lin mode. Like, he's really good. He's basically Marcus but with less resistance and skill, but insane strength in exchange.
Yeah. The lesser skill is gonna be funny later on because Kent actually also has gotten a lot of good level ups in my playthrough, but and he's actually probably better than Sane by the end of it. But I ended up using Sane more because of Lin mode, basically.
Fair enough.
Because I liked the fact that we had trained him here and I didn't want that to go to waste.
Okay, shall we skip to some Dorcas combat and call it a day, or was there something else you wanted to say?
Well, I just wanted to point out that Nils is at 2 HP. That's all.
Yeah, well, he's used to it at this point. Actually, I don't know if he is. I hope he is. I hope he's experienced at this.
Sarah's probably about to heal him.
I hope so. It would be quite rude if she didn't. 20 turns in.
Sometimes I have to check the turn count to make sure I'm on pace.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, okay, nope. He's not getting healed.
Oh, no. Oh, this is probably when you said you were healing him too early with Sarah. Or possibly
yeah,
one of those
I think
kind
I
of
did,
conditions.
yeah. I think it might have been one of these turns that I healed too early with Sarah and ended up failing because of it.
Yeah, because like, she would get a level up too early or something. I don't remember what the problem was. Or he would attack a different person, maybe?
It ended up screwing things up.
Yeah, it somehow
It
went wrong.
might have been, yeah. So, yeah, we can skip ahead to Dorcas doing anything.
I love that. Let's go. Alright, we're about to witness some Dorcas action. At first, it looks like my man isn't doing anything. But lo and behold, Nils, in a complete surprise to everyone, dances for Dorcas, hits level 7, unlocking the insane... never mind, Dorcas didn't do anything. No, I was fooled. I was told by myself that this was the turn where Dorcas was going to attack, but I was wrong.
No, but we did see Nils hit level 7, which is, you know, the whole reason this whole setup is here in the first place. So that's important.
In the wise words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's why I'm here. Now we're on turn 34. So this is the penultimate turn. I believe that's how that works. And now Dorcas gets his skill. I think he's still level 3, if I'm not wrong.
I think so. I think he got speed on one of his level ups, which is cool, but
maybe.
It's like you can't rely on that at any point. Okay, so he does 2 hits, right? I forgot.
But you are killing these enemies at some point, right? Or is this
I don't think I'm killing all 3 of them.
Oh, damn. Waste XP. Redo the whole run.
Yeah, it is also wasted EXP because now they're going for Nils even though he's already level 7, so it's like that's, you know, less experience I can get on Nils in Hector hard mode.
Does Ninian get to 20 or Nils in Hector hard mode?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Every unpromoted unit.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I guess dancers count.
If you told me they didn't count because they can't promote, I would have been like, yes, that's completely fair. But the fact you did it anyway, I think, speaks to your tenacity and perhaps insanity, if I may be so rude.
It's not rude. I know that I do weird things with video games sometimes.
All right, Lynn's been sitting on his throne for like 20 turns, but here we go. The C's. We're done. That's
I almost hit wait.
I almost hit wait right at the end.
But yeah, so we spent 34 turns and still S-ranked it. So make of that what you will.
Ranked as a drug. Well, I think that's as good as a like trailer for the real thing as we can possibly give you. 24 minutes of chapter 10. I think like this is roughly about as long as the rest of the run took. But stay tuned for more. I guess it's been super fun. Altissimo, thank you so much for making the run, recording it, routing it, doing all the work, and then commentating it with me too. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having fun here as well.
All right, great. In that case, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.